Never buy a property until you understand what the yield is.
Yield is simply the return divided by the price of the property, which is, say for example, you're getting $500 per week divided by a $500,000 property. That, as a rule of thumb, is a 5% return. So that's good. If this $500 per week all of a sudden turns into $200 per week on the same price of property, that is a bad return. So what you do to work this out, let's just use a $500 per week example, times that by 52 equals $6,000, and the property is worth 500k, so that is specifically a 5.2% yield or return. So that is a good property. The reason why 5.2% yield is good is because currently bank rates, so your mortgage rate might be 5.5%, could be more, could be less. So you have 5.5% mortgage if it's on a $500,000 property at 80% borrowing, which is loan to value ratio, which means you got a $400,000 mortgage. So this mortgage is going to cost us $22,000 per year, and that's interest only. So we're only paying the interest on the $400,000 at 5.5%, which means when we come back over to the yield side, we're getting a 5.2% yield gross. So that is 5.2%, which is $26,000, but we need to minus expenses. And I'm not going to go through what all the expenses are, but generally they're around 20% as a rule of thumb. So 20% of that is about $5,200 of yearly expenses. This is a rule of thumb, remember, which means that we end up with about $20,800 in income versus our $22,000 of interest payments. So there's going to be a shortfall. And the shortfall is $1,200 per annum. So that means you have to come up with $1,200 per annum. But one thing that you don't realize, which makes a massive difference, is we haven't allowed for any depreciation. So if the property is brand new, you might have $20,000 per year to depreciate. And this is actually how the government helps you own property. And let's just take a 30% tax rate on this depreciation amount. I'm not going to explain depreciation. There's other videos where I explain this in more detail. 30% is $6,000. So the government's going to give you an extra $6,000 a year to help you own this property. So let's have a look. It costs us $1,200 per year in costs, but now the government's going to give us $6,000 back of our tax, which means that the property doesn't cost us $1,200 per year anymore to own. It actually puts in $4,800 of money into our piggy bank. So that's how the government helps you own properties using depreciation. And if you want more of an explanation on depreciation, I'll go through that in another video.